They are among the city's most influential philanthropists. Peter Lynch managed Fidelity's Magellan Fund and retired in 1990 at the age of 46. Peter and his wife Carolyn established the Lynch Foundation in 1988, and now that foundation is committing $2.5 million to Boston schools, public, private, and charter, to improve the training of principals and to improve student performance in English and math. I'm joined here now by Peter and Carolyn Lynch. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, Emily.
I have to admit, when I first got called by your foundation a few weeks ago, I had never thought of this before in my life. How does a principal get changed? So if I get trained, if I'm in a public school or a charter or a Catholic school for that matter, and I want to be a principal, how does it work now?
I think I'll turn this. My wife's father was a principal, so I have this responsibility. I think Carolyn's really terrific at this.
Yeah, I know she's the head of the foundation. All right, so I'll start with you. How does it work now?
There really isn't anything formal. You can't get a master's degree in principalship. There aren't programs, executive education programs or anything. And so, as Peter said, my father was a high school principal. And I remember when he was a teacher. In fact, he was my biology teacher. And when he made the transition to becoming the principal in the school, there were many changes. The jobs are completely different. And almost all of our principals are past teachers, which is, I think, a very important and a very valid preparation. But what it doesn't make you ready for is the sort of the business end of being a principal, the management of the finances at the school, the management of the staff, and also the management of the community, and how to engage the whole community in the education.
Mm-hmm. So the foundation sets up this program. The first part of the foundation, $1.5 million, goes to training the principals. Where do you do it? Do you have I know you've got a location at Boston College. Do they go there? Do you bring them over to Boston College and have a training session? How does it work?
We actually have this is the third year of the program we've had at Boston College, where we bring in principals. And this year we're actually changing it for this cohort. It's going to, I think, 1/3, Carolyn, I think we're going to be aspiring principals. So they'll be, assistant principal or potential principal. So they meet together for a couple weeks in the summer. They meet in the fall. They meet in the spring. They do trips. They deal with the best prepared people in the world. They have the best practices, great materials, and they keep up with each other for the next rest of their lives. I mean, it's a very lonely job being a principal. You don't have a peer in the building. And there's the educational part, there's the business part, there's what's wrong with the boiler, what's wrong with the roof. I mean, there's a lot of things that aren't educational. And so there's a lot of elements. It's a very rough role.
Do they meet with each other during the
yes.
school year? They must.
It's very important. They meet monthly, but one of the main objectives of the program is to develop a network, an ongoing lifetime network between these principals, because they really learn so much from each other.
Right, so the other part of this, of your foundation grant, is going to be this achievement network, which is really aimed at improving math and English skills. And is it directed towards the MCAS tests, or is it overall improvement in achievement?
It's actually to try and help the teacher with the student. There's four tests a year, very relatively short, and it will show the teacher the reason the student's doing poorly in math, and this is 3rd grade through 8th grade. The reason they're doing poorly, they can't add a half to 5/8. I mean, what's their problem? It doesn't show. At the end of the year, MCAS shows that you're doing poorly in math, or you're doing poorly in English, or poorly in comprehension. This shows where the problems are, whether it's adverbs or prepositions. And here we have the best schools in the world, universities, particularly Greater Boston. We're really weak in K through 8. And this is done of the 5 best performing schools in the state last year. They all came from the Achieving Network. 5 of those, and the ones they started 6 years ago, they're all top-performing schools. They start with very basic.
Let me make that clear, because this Achievement Network is in place in certain public schools, and you want to put it in all of them.
We're rolling it. It's in, I think, 22
public,
schools now.
Parochial and charter schools.
Yeah. It's in 22 schools now, 22 public schools, and I think 18 charter schools. Next year, over the next 5 years, we're going to put it into 15 schools a year, add 15 more schools each year. So it's a remarkable success. There's 100,000 students doing it now, 9,000 teachers, and it makes you feel good about teachers. Right now, these teachers, in this summer, they're working right now in the Boston Public Schools to get ready for it. There'll be 15 schools this year in the Boston Public Schools using it. It's a great tool. 4 achievement tests a year, quick feedback helps the teachers. It's a carrot rather than a stick.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've heard this analogy before, but you are kind of our local Boston version of Bill and Melinda Gates, who have put so much of their riches in the billions behind education nationally. The former executive director of that foundation, in fact, said, well, there's two schools of thought. You either fix the public school education or you replace it. Do you sit on either sides of the fence of that?
Clearly. Fix it. I mean,
not replace it.
The public schools are 95% of the students. You have to improve it, and the problem literally is solvable.
So many things. It's easy.
The Achievement Network has done it.
It's easy to pick an organization apart that already exists. Our public schools are doing a remarkable job. They do so many things well. They do it right. They should not be. They should not be.
And do you feel that way about all public schools, or are certain
some are better
city
than
schools, inner city schools, Boston schools in a tougher position than Newton, Wellesley, Brookline,
or
you know?
Clearly, if you come from homes where there's a single parent, you're below the poverty level, no one speaks English at home, there isn't a computer, it's harder. But they've made great advances, these schools. Of the first schools that started with the Achievement Network, they're some of the top performing schools. They're as good as the suburban schools or Western schools. They're doing really well.
One of the directions for our involvement with Education Initiative is that the three different areas of schools in the city, the charter schools, the parochial schools, and the district schools, are always equally included in all of the programs. And I have heard from participants how really valuable that is, because they get a different perspective. Each one of those sectors has slightly different problems, slightly different populations, slightly different challenges, and when they share their experiences, they learn a great deal from each other.
It's good to be all-inclusive, too. I'm sure there's some criticism of that, too, but you've been involved for decades now. You were involved in Teach for America. You were early supporters of City Year. Why education? And I know you're philanthropic in many other areas. Why education for you, Peter?
Well, it used to be 20, 30 years ago, if you're a dropout, you had a chance. You'd work a lathe, work a press, work a piece of injection molding machine. If you're a dropout now, you're really in trouble. And the key ages are ages 1 day to age 10. By then, you can bring some kids back. The early ages are so important in America. And in America today, somebody born in America today is less likely to graduate from high school than their parents. That's not true anywhere in Europe, not true anywhere in the world. I mean, this dropout thing is terrible. And people that graduate sometimes aren't very capable. So you really have to get a good education. So we're creating taxpayers. I mean, these are happy citizens. I mean, if you're a dropout, you used to be able to do well as a dropout. You work a lathe. There were great jobs 10, 20, 30 years ago. That's not true today. You really need an education.
So did you sit down together one day and say, you know what, this is where we're going to put our money?
I don't think it was all at once. It certainly wasn't all at once. It isn't where we put all our money.
Well, I know that. Not all of it.
Well, it's also upside down, Emily. We have the best college universities in the world, particularly here in Greater Boston. And there's all these scholarships to all these great schools. But if you're gone at age, kids that drop out of school now, 8, 9, they just disappear. They go away. You're supposed to stay in school to 16. They're so discoured they leave. I mean, they've
tried to change the age of dropout to 18.
They just have to make the school environment more fun, more enjoyable. These people just, they can't track them down. I mean, if schooling is better, it can be solved. But the key grades are kindergarten, pre-K, and preschool, right through 8th grade.
All right. The Aspiring Principals Network and the Achievement Network.
Thank you.
Good luck to both of you, Carolyn and Peter Lynch.
Thanks
so much for coming.
Thank you.
And that's it for Greater Boston. Tomorrow night, the new drug phenom Molly, why it's so prevalent among electronic music listeners. And the former drummer for Del Fuegos joins us. And Charlie Baker is in. The one-time gubernatorial candidate is taking another run at the corner office. That's all tomorrow at 7. And another reminder, join us next week for a series of hour-long mayoral forums. We'll be joined each night by 3 of the 12 hopefuls. It starts Monday at 7 here on Greater Boston and simulcast on 89.7 WGBH Radio. I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for watching.